about to start with our very first panel, and that's called the President's Panel, and it's led by President Ezra Duville. And he is the CEO, founder, and president of Baton Youth Services. And so he can come on right now and he will introduce and bring on the presidents as well. So if you are a president on the panel, you can turn on your video right now as we get the president's panel started.
All right, well, thank you, Jefferson. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Yes, so we are here for the president's panel. It was very important. I love that last video. This is my era, right? And if you put a Z right after the E, it spells out Ezra. I don't know. It's just a coincidence for some reason. But, just wanted to, yes, we are here to have a panel of presidents. I am the CEO and president of Baton Youth Services, which is a youth and family financial empowerment organization. But I'm going to be the moderator. I'm going to be moderating for three dynamic, great men, great Black men. And it's important for us to have this because, a lot of our young Black boys are seeing our Black men, being shot at in the media, having a knee put on the back of their neck recently, which is very saddening and very frustrating to see. So we want to be able to portray a positive image of the Black man, and that a Black man can be in a position of power, can be in a position of influence, a position of leadership. So I'm going to let these great men introduce themselves. We're going to take about 45 seconds to a minute to introduce yourselves, and we'll go right into the panel. So we'll start off with Reuben Roberts.
Good afternoon, and I bring everyone greetings. Peace and blessings to you all. My name is Reuben Roberts. I am the president of the Miami-Dade branch of the NAACP and also CEO and president of my consulting company, RER Consulting. I appreciate being here today, and I'm looking for a very enriching dialogue.
Wonderful. And we'll go into the next panel. You can go ahead and introduce yourselves, and we'll go right into the panel.
Good afternoon. My name is Japhus Hardrick, and I have the distinct pleasure of serving as the president of Florida Memorial University. And I'm really looking forward to the conversation that we will be having today, and the opportunity to hear from so many of my outstanding brothers who are part of sharing this platform with us this afternoon. And so I'm truly honored to be invited to be a part of the conversation.
Thank you. And now we have Dexter Bridgman.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'm very privileged and honored to be invited amongst such esteemed individuals. And I thank you all very much for NABJ to consider me as a panelist. As I said, my name is Dexter Bridgman. I'm the president and CEO and founder of MIA Media Group, where we publish Legacy Miami, Legacy South Florida, and MIA magazines. Our publications reach over 1.2 million readers in South Florida, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County every other month. And it is indeed, again, my pleasure and honor to be on this panel this afternoon.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time out to be a part of this and being able to be a part of this discussion. And we'll start with President Bridgman. So the question that we have for you is, as a powerful media influencer, what role do you believe the media plays in shaping the hopes and dreams of our youth today?
Well, the media in general, especially when it relates to Black media and Black-owned media, we play a different role than the general media. It is a known fact that Black-owned media, 90% of the information that is disseminated throughout the country is into our community is from Black-owned media. And Black-owned media has a very, very high rate of approval. So when it comes to disseminating information in general, we make it a point to really try to the information and the stories and the articles was depending on what your demographic is, depending on who your target audience is, it may be a little different amongst of the different groups, but overall we try to certainly make sure that we profile and that we write articles that are positive news stories about individuals in our community, whether they be men, women, children, because there's enough of the negative images that are portrayed in general media. So it is our responsibility, it's our duty to make sure that we do that. And we're very happy to do that. And we're very proud to do that. That is our main responsibility and duty. That is our mission.
Thank you. And yeah, and that is a very powerful place to be in making sure that that message is being delivered in an accurate way for our community. So we thank you for what you do and what your team does. So we'll go into Mr. Roberts. You know, you're currently the Miami-Dade NAACP president, and you have a lot of influence in our community. You know, so growing up, did you see yourself in this position to lead, especially during the times that we're in right now?
No, I did not. To be quite honest with you, I come from a line of family members. My mother and my father have always been activists of sorts. My mother is a longtime life member of the Miami-Dade branch of the NAACP. My father was in the Bahamas, is heavily involved in politics. And I've always taught to give back to our community from a youth, always taught to advocate for those who voices were muted, and where I could to make sure I can sound the alarm and make sure that I could be a voice of reason. And I was also taught to make sure that I can negotiate whenever I got a seat at the table, negotiate and advocate for the rights of my people. And I tried to live up to those standards that my parents have given me every day. I think that the universe has guided me to where I am today. This is not something that I chose to do. It's more something that chose me. And so everything, all of my life experiences had led me to where I am today. And I'm very grateful and appreciative of it. And I want to say something just to piggyback on what Brother Dexter Bregman said. And I want you guys to understand the significance of media. Media shapes and molds the world's view of people. So this is one of the reasons why Black media is so very important. As Brother Bridgman said, you know, the focus for his platforms is to highlight the positive imagery of Black people. But in general, we need to make sure we see more positive images like what you're providing for us today of Black men, Black women, Black people in general, for our youth to look on to, and for people who are outside of the Black community to recognize that there is Black excellence. So that's a very, very important part. I don't know how important people realize it is, but we are influenced heavily by media.
Yes, and that is definitely a great point. And I really thank, you know, NABJ for doing what they're doing right now, because we want to bring more exposure. So the great things that's being done in our community and the Black men that are behind those great things. So I thank you so much for that, Mr. Roberts. And we're going to go to Dr. Hardrick. You know, being the president of Florida Memorial University, and I have to emphasize this, South Florida's only HBCU. Right. Our question for you is this: you know, what role does education play in building and preparing young men to be leaders in various industries?
Oh, wow, what a powerful question. So let me just say that for me, education is truly the great equalizer. And that education is going to be that entity that will cause us to soar. And education doesn't necessarily mean that one has to matriculate from a university. But education is making sure that you equip yourselves with necessary skills that are going to create economic opportunities for you and to build wealth for you.
Right.
So let me just say that for me, again, because I don't want any young man who is listening to think that my rise to, or to be privileged to be in this role did not come at a cost. Because I am the first in my family of 9 to go to school and to graduate from college. You're looking at a young man who came from abject poverty, grew up in a family of 9, single mom, and a young man who did not have a relationship with my father, but I paid to bury my father. And when I went to school, I literally worked 40 hours a week. I carried 18 to 21 credits every semester. Wow. And I sent money home to my mother to help my siblings. But you know what? I am so blessed in the sense that, and I'm glad that I broke that cycle, because my siblings then turned around, followed my footsteps, and went on to obtain not only an undergraduate degree, but many of them have their master's degrees now. Some of them have 2 master's degrees. And so I know the power of education. And it is so important that our young men have that same hunger. But unfortunately, many of them are faced with a lot of challenges themselves. They start out, but then they stop out and they don't complete. And no matter where I go across the country, I always bring this issue up. Just like we are looking at and being laser focused on trying to bring about transformation and to eradicate some of the racial inequalities we see in this country. And so much of that is stemmed in economics as well. We must be laser focused on making sure that our young men complete college. So because I say that, because when you look at the degree attainment, the educational attainment for our young Black men continues to decline or decrease. But the educational attainment for other ethnic groups, if you will, among males, they continue to increase. And if we don't wake up and be laser focused and intentional about reversing these trends, we're going to wake up one day and find that there is a huge gap in terms of our young men without a solid education and being prepared to meet the demands and the job demands of the future. Because so many of the jobs that exist today will not be here tomorrow. Education, technology is driving and transforming everything that happens in this country. And you want to be able to help them be prepared to obtain those quality jobs that are going to really make a difference economically, not only in their lives, but the lives of their family members as well.
Wow, I think that was very powerful. Number one, to hear your story, and this is the exact example of what we're saying. We need to hear those stories of your upbringing, the hard work that you had to put about. Because in media we can hear all Black men are deadbeats and things of that nature, but we need to hear more stories like that. And for what you're saying when it comes to college education, that is true. Yes, that doesn't mean that you may have to necessarily go to a university, but I mean, there's some jobs you can't even get an interview if you don't have that degree. So it's still very relevant depending on the industry that you're trying to enter into. So very
Ezra,
excellent points.
Ezra, and one of the things for me here at Florida Memorial, and I'm not trying to monopolize the conversation, but for me
go ahead.
Florida Memorial, man, that's
I'm
why
gonna come back to you. I'll come back to you, Mr. Bridges. Don't worry.
I am so committed. I am so committed to helping our young men get an education.
Yes.
All I ask is when they come here, because young men that we accept many a times in this university, I'm telling you, they will not get into any other institution. But we bring them here, we give them an opportunity. And it's amazing because of the high touch that we provide and the supportive environment we provide to these students. we begin to see these young men evolve.
Yes.
And I'm just committed. I love to see how they come in one way, but when they leave us, they are prepared. They're equipped to either get into graduate school, they're going to be prepared to compete in a global marketplace, or they're going to become entrepreneurs, or all three. And that's one of the things we have to learn and continue to teach our young people. Don't always think about working for someone else, but learn how to create your own businesses and opportunities for others, because you have the mindset, you have everything you need in you to be successful. The key is you gotta believe in yourselves.
Yes, and that's a great point. I'm gonna plug myself in here real quick, because what you're saying about entrepreneurship is the initiative that I've started, School to CEO Pipeline. Like, we're, most of us are aware of the school to prison pipeline, and it's time for us to take control of our destination and making sure that we educate our young people that, yes, we want to make sure that you get educated. Now, that may mean going into a college, going to a university, or it may mean, depending on your career path, to get a specific type of certification or licensing to be able to start your entrepreneurship pathway. And I think that's very important. But at the end of the day, is knowing that you control your life, you control your future with the decisions that you make. And so I think that's very, very powerful. And I'm going to go right back to you, Mr. Bridgman, in regards to, media, because I think this is very, very important. What can young men do to garner positive media attention to advance their goals? How can we use media today, social media, in general, to advance our goals for the young men that's out there?
That's a good question. There's so much out there when it comes to social media, positive, negative, and everything in between. It's one has to concentrate on disseminating positive information, though. There just needs to be more of that. And if you're trying to be a news maker, if you are an influencer, you have an opportunity to use your platform and introduce positive news and information. Some people choose to use their platform to spew negative information. Why don't we, as Black individuals, Black men, women, as a community, use our power? I also belong to an organization that was formalized a couple of years ago called BOMA, the Black-Owned Media Alliance. One of the major purposes of that organization was to refute information about our community when the general market went after our Black people, whether they're a leader, whether they are just a plain ordinary person. Many times when those stories are told, especially if it's told in an incorrect manner, they just leave it out there. And so as far as the general media is concerned, is that person's guilty or that person's a stain. Well, you know what? We decided that we're going to take that mantle and clean that up and offer offer the true story of that situation. It happens many times in our community. So to pretty much answer your question, you have an opportunity. Use your platform. Social media is such a big and humongous body. Choose to use that opportunity in a positive manner and send out positive messages to our community.
Yes, thank you so much for that. And I think social media has been a huge influence in the current times of what's been going on in the situation of George Floyd. And with that being said, we kind of want to go to you, President Roberts. As a community, how can we as a community, find opportunities and resources to put ourselves in a better position, as a community? What are some of the things that we can do? I know you've been posting some things. So what are some things that we can get involved in and do to put ourselves in a better position moving forward?
I think that you touched on two of them now with my guest panelists. One is definitely to educate yourself. Make sure that you get formal education or informal, but stay informed, get educated. And the other thing is our perception, how we are perceived is based on the media consumption that we consume and media that we put out. So we need to make sure that we are putting out positive images. Opportunity is now. Let me say that again. The opportunity is now. The world is watching. Never have I ever seen so many people, multicultural people, intergenerational people, standing up, protesting for the murder, against the murder of a Black man. You look out there and you see the protest. So now my job is to set demands. When I set the demands, and when I go and I meet with those administrators and I meet with those legislators and I meet with the local commissioners and mayors and that sort of thing, I need to know that I say, if I'm advocating for economic opportunities, that I have people that are there to take those opportunities and run with them. The challenge is you have to be prepared. You have to have the education. You have to have the experience. And so I'm out here fighting. We're out here fighting. A lot of us are out here fighting. And I'm making demands. I'm seriously making demands. We're going to take advantage of this opportunity because the world is watching. But what we want to prepare our young folks for is to be ready to step in. We have some of the most talented young people in the world. You don't believe me? Look at any of the new social trends. Who sets them?
Young folks.
Young Black people.
That's right.
Whatever we're doing in terms of music, whatever we're doing in terms of clothing, whatever we're doing in terms of hairstyle, you know, you may feel that folks don't see you, but they see you because they're always mimicking you. This message is to young folks.
Yes.
That is power. Now what we need to do is take that energy, that power that we have, and put it into something where we can build legacy, where you as a young person can build something up and hand it down to your children, or create opportunities for other people that look like you. Listen, we don't have to go out with our hat in hand and beg for anything anymore. We have enough information, we have enough access, there's enough opportunities out there where we can begin to set things in order for ourselves, where we can begin to make sure that our dollar circulates in our community multiple times. We can purchase media products from Black-owned media companies. We can attend HBCUs instead of going to the majority institutions. We can get the information that we need, and then we can go out and serve our communities. We can build our communities instead of moving out of our communities, and build them up to make them what they should be. Gentrification is real. People are moving into our communities, and they're actually building up the value in our community because they're building up the value in their homes. So we have a responsibility, young and old alike, to make sure that we do what we need to do to build our community. You have different phases and different realities. So young folks may be out there on the front lines protesting. I'm in there at the table, sitting at the table saying, listen, this is what we need. So you understand that this process is multifold. Don't get it twisted. Don't think that the older folks are not actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. We're doing it, but we're doing it in a different way. Right. And remember that the protests, historically, if you look at the civil rights movement and that sort of thing, youth have always been an integral part of that. So while they were doing the lunch sit-ins with the college students in the 60s and 50s, while they were doing the bus rides to Selma and to the Edmund Pettus Bridge, you had folks like Whitney Young, A. Philip Randolph, meeting with President Johnson to make sure that we had the Civil Rights Act, to make sure that we had the Voting Rights Act, make sure that we had the Housing Acts. That combination of youth and the other leadership working together to get the changes. Now, once the changes are there, they must be sustained, they must be supported so that we build legacy and that we don't have to have our hat in hand asking for anything because we're providing for ourselves.
I think you hit on multiple points that needed to be said. It's multifold. It's a lot of different things. It's the older, wiser, with the influencers of the young generation coming together, and I think that's a powerful statement. You know, and you hit on HBCUs, and I'm gonna give President Hardrick some last words. But I'll be honest with you. You know, I grew up in a Haitian community, a Haitian family. I went to, grew up in a Haitian home, but I had the opportunity to go to Northwestern Senior High School, Miami Northwestern Senior High School. And a lot of my friends were so excited to go to Florida Memorial University. They were so excited to go to Bethune. They were so excited to go to FAMU. And I didn't understand why, you know, and to be honest with you, as I continue to learn, teach myself, and I had the chance to watch Beyonce's Homecoming documentary. And when I saw that, I said, wow, I understand. And I wish I had the opportunity to go to an HBCU, because of the rich culture and the education, the real education of our history that's provided there. So with that being said, President Hardrick, being the president of the only HBCU in South Florida, I will emphasize that. What are some of the resources that our community can use to build the young men, to be future presidents, in any industry or any thing that they choose to do?
Ezra, first of all, let me say that yes, Florida Memorial is definitely the only HBCU in South Florida. And the thing about Florida Memorial is that it's been around 141 years providing access to a quality education for so many deserving students. Florida Memorial has been in South Florida for 61 years. In fact, just prior to the pandemic, we were getting ready to celebrate again 141 years of existence and 61 here in South Florida. At Florida Memorial, we are truly getting ready to do something extremely innovative and to integrate this university into the greater community. People are going to know who we are. We have been silent too long. We have not shaped our own narrative, and we're beginning to do all of that now. And I want every young man, every young woman, everybody who's listening, I want you to know Florida Memorial is definitely where you belong. And that is one of the reasons why we are bringing back football to Florida Memorial. This is our inaugural season. We will be launching football in the fall. We will be open face-to-face classes. In fact, we're starting activities back at the university even as we speak. We will be fully operational. The university never closed, even during the height of the pandemic. We did not have any reported cases of the virus on campus, and that was because our students, they adhered to all of the advice and they protected themselves and they were responsible. And so by July, we are going to be fully operational. With face-to-face classes starting in July and even into the fall. So that many have been asking, are you going to be open? You better believe we're going to be open, here to serve you. And not only are we bringing football back to this university, and I call it a rebirth. Let me say this. I call it a rebirth simply because Florida Memorial had a football program 61 years ago when they were in St. Augustine and Live Oak. And the Klan went in one night. Some of you may not know this story, but one night and shot up the place. People literally ran with all they had on their bodies at that time, running for their lives. We still have 300 and some odd acres up there in St. Augustine. And so when they did that, Florida Memorial had a football program, and those guys were actually champions at that time. And I wanted to continue the legacy of what was started many years ago. and to rebirth that here. Not only are we doing football, but we also bring in band. My new band director, Mr. Richard Beckford, and I mean, we have hundreds of students who have already applied just to be a part of the band, and I'm telling you, it's something to watch. We're bringing new academic programs, athletic programs online. We are the only HBCU in South Florida that has a beach volleyball program, and some of you probably don't even know that. This is the first time that we won our volleyball conference championship in volleyball this year. And not only that, but what's even equally important to me is that our student athletes are literally, the minimum GPA of our student athletes is above 3.0. We are number 2 in our conference with the highest number of student athletes with GPAs above 3.0. And so that tells you that we take very seriously academics. And so we are about transformation. And that's why I want to encourage our young men, our young women, consider coming to Florida Memorial, because here you will definitely get a top-notch education at this university, to be taught by some of the best faculty. You will be touched by so many who are dedicated and committed to seeing you succeed in life.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I want to take the time to thank you 3 gentlemen, you 3 presidents, for being a part of this panel. I know our time is up. You know, I would love, you know, maybe one day we could, you know, be at somebody's backyard or somebody's cookout and chop it up more, because we definitely need to do that, you know, especially me as a young man. And I appreciate Mr. Roberts. He's always reaching out to me. So we definitely need to find other ways to continue to do what we do. So thank you guys so much. And we'll give this back to Mr. Jefferson Noel.
Thank you, Ezra.
I love it. I love it. And thank you so much, Ezra. Presidents, I'd like for you to stay on for about 10 more seconds, because I want every single young person who's watching to see the faces of Black excellence. See, when I was growing up, people used to tell me that you could be president of the United States one day, but what if I wasn't interested in politics, right? What if young Black men are not interested in politics? Does that mean they can't be president? No. You could be the president of a university. You could be the president of a corporation. You could be the president of a nonprofit. And so right now we are looking at the faces of Black excellence. So I'd like to thank every single president who came on this panel right now. I'd like to thank you for inspiring Black men. May God bless you all. We have an amazing panel right afterwards, so feel free to stay if you would like, because this conversation that we have next, the conversation with cops, I believe is a conversation that's apropos for a time such as this.